Today on the show, were two politicians just excellent examples of how civil human beings should behave? Shocker.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So you might love one of the two teams. You might actively despise both of the teams. In fact, that wouldn't be all that unusual. When I've talked to friends about the World Series, I've heard a lot of people say, is it possible for both of them to lose? You might be a Dodgers fan, you might be a Red Sox fan, you might be completely ambivalent, but like it or not, this is a bit of an auspicious World Series. First and foremost, the game one might have come and gone by the time you listen to this, depending on where you're listening. But, man, here's the thing. I'm going Red Sox all the way on this one. Just because the Dodgers, you know who plays for the Dodgers? Chase Utley. Chase Grimy Utley. There are two filthy, disgusting, dirty, criminally dangerous slides that I've seen in professional baseball. One was Chase Utley when he played for the Philadelphia Phillies. The other one was Chase Utley when he played for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And, man, that was the one where, that was the one where he broke Ruben Tejada's leg. Broke my beloved New York Mets second baseman Ruben Tejada's leg during the dirtiest of dirty slides in the run-up to the 2015 World Series. So, I'm not a Dodgers fan because they're the most moneyed team in baseball. You know, people that criticize the Yankees saying, they just buy whatever they win. Same goes double for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Well, I mean, not literally fiscally double, but they've got more money than anybody else invested in their payroll. And so I can never bring myself to root for them in that sense. But, man, I got to tell you, I love Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw, how can you not like Clayton Kershaw? I mean, here's a kid from the wrong side of the tracks that made good and then is just a stellar example of a human being, does all the right things with his baseball millions, and watching him pitch is like watching Da Vinci paint the Sistine Chapel. He's a freaking artist. I mean, he's no Jacob deGrom, but he's really, really incredible, and I would like to see him get a ring, but not while Chase Utley is on his team. And then, you know, there's folks that love the Boston Red Sox or despise the Boston Red Sox. Boston Red Sox, I don't have that New York Mets. I don't have that New York Mets fan predisposition to give the Boston Red Sox a hard way to go. Boston Red Sox are an incredible baseball team. It's just, I think anybody that has a problem with the Boston Red Sox probably has a problem with New England sports fans. And a lot of people will tell you that New England sports fans are, well, you can be a poor loser. A lot of people will tell you New England sports fans are poor winners. But whatever the case may be, whether you despise them, whether you have a dog in the race, whether you're completely ambivalent, the World Series between the Boston Red Sox and the LA Dodgers is an interesting one. Boston and LA aren't exactly the cities that are starving for championships, but this is the first time that the Red Sox and Dodgers have faced off in the World Series since 1916, over 100 years ago. Back then, the Dodgers were the Brooklyn Robins. Yeah, it was before they were the Brooklyn Dodgers. They were the Brooklyn Robins, and the Red Sox beat them in 5 games. The Dodgers have won the National League pennant 23 times. The Red Sox have been kings of the American League 14 times. The Dodgers, the Dodgers' last World Series win, well, that goes back a little ways. The Dodgers last won the World Series in 1988. The Red Sox were champs in 2013, also in 2007 and 2004. But before that, they had that legendary 86-year drought. A lot of people said there was a curse. But whatever the case may be, it's an auspicious one, like I said. Since the Red Sox and Dodgers are in different leagues, they didn't play each other between 1916 and 2002. Yeah. They didn't play each other between that 1916 World Series and 2002. Interleague play was introduced in 1997, but 2002 was when they first got each other on the schedule. So they haven't seen a lot of each other, and for that reason, it's very interesting. The Dodgers swept the Red Sox at Dodger Stadium that year, and they've only played each other 12 times since then. In fact, this might sound crazy, but the Dodgers have only won once at Fenway Park since it opened in 1912. Yeah. More and more, this is becoming a bit of an historic event in the making. To get here, Boston won a franchise record 108 games. Yeah, 108 games to claim their third straight AL East title. I mean, you could argue a lot of things, but that they don't deserve to be where they are is not one of them. Then they beat 200-win teams, the wild-card New York Yankees in the Division Series and the defending world champions, the Houston Astros, in the ALCS. And they only dropped one game in either of those series. With the Yankees, it was a 3-1 series. With the Astros, it was a 4-1 series. To take their division for the 6th consecutive year, the Dodgers had to win a 1-game playoff against the Colorado Rockies. Then they knocked off the Braves in the NLDS and the Brewers in the NLCS. And I was rooting for the Brewers on that one, only because, well, my beloved New York Mets used to have a player by the name of Curtis Granderson, who's probably my favorite ball player. It's just a stellar example of a human being. There's a reason why he won the Roberto Clemente Award. And to see him playing on the Brewers, man, I would have loved to have seen him go all the way and get a ring. I was in it for Grandy, but it was not to be. It's a closer one, though. LA is making its second straight trip to the World Series. Last year, they lost to the Astros in 7 games. This is the first World Series where both team managers, and this is fascinating stuff. This is the first World Series, the first in the history of the game, in the history of the World Series. This is the first World Series where both teams' managers, Alex Cora of Boston and Dave Roberts of LA, played for both teams. And Roberts played for both in one season. Midway through 2004, the Dodgers traded him to the Red Sox. He played for Boston that postseason, but he wasn't on their World Series roster. Cora was on the Red Sox when they won in 2007, and he was a coach for the Astros when they won last year. Both teams led their league in runs scored this year, and the Dodgers had 7 players reach 20-plus home runs. They ranked second to the Yankees in total home runs, hitting a franchise record of 235, which is tied for the third highest total in National League history. The Red Sox led the majors in batting average, on-base percentage, and slugging percentage, with Mookie Betts and JD Martinez leading the way. The Sox won 16 more games than the Dodgers, which is tied for the third biggest win differential in World Series history. It's going to be an exciting time. The opening Vegas odds have Boston as the slight favorites.
Real radio. 104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So like I was saying, it's an auspicious one, this World Series. It really is a bit of history in the making. First time in over 100 years, these two teams have played each other in the World Series. And, well, if you are a gambling individual, the opening Vegas odds have Boston as slight favorites. The Red Sox are at 50%, at about 57%, and the Dodgers roughly 46%, which means if you bet $100 on the Red Sox, you'd win $74, and if you bet $100 on the Dodgers, you'd win $115. Yeah, the Red Sox won 16 more games than the Dodgers, which is tied for the third biggest win differential, as we were saying, in the World Series history. The Red Sox won 108 and had the best record in baseball. I mean, like I said, you really can't argue with the fact that the Red Sox are there. Best record in baseball. It's weird. If you're like me, and it totally depends on how your team is doing. If my beloved New York Mets are in a position to go to the World Series because they're part of a wild card situation, then I'm all in favor of the wild card situation. But if my beloved New York Mets have the best record in baseball, I think they should not have to deal with any elimination. They should just be there on the merit of the fact that they have the best record in baseball. Either way, Red Sox are there. Yep, they've got the best record in baseball. They, based on the number of wins they managed to rack up during the season, they deserve to be there. Nobody can take that away from them. Of the 23 World Series winners in the wild card era, only 5 had the best regular season record. Although 2 of those were in the 2007 to 2013 Red Sox. So make of that what you will. I don't know if you care about that sort of thing, but racking up that many wins, it justifies something. And I'm not one of those New York Mets fans that has a problem with the Red Sox. I think I love baseball. I get so much out of baseball I would never take away from any other team or any other fan getting something magical out of baseball. Except for the Washington Nationals. It's just this weird thing. We have other division rivalries. I don't even mind the Phillies or the Phillies fans. I think Phillies fans can't stand me. But if I see a Phillies fan, I don't care. I'm like, oh, yeah. That's the thing. We have something between us, you and I. But I'm cool with it. I like it. It's the Washington Nationals that are always a bit of a thorn in my side. Why? Why do people have a problem with the Nationals? Is it because they're cocky without the goods to back it up, meaning the wins on which to hang their hat? I don't know. But there's something about the Nationals that irks me. And it's probably not something that makes a terrific amount of sense. But you know what I really appreciate? You know what you have to appreciate about baseball? If you're like me, you appreciate the sanctuary from politics that baseball has provided us. I don't know how they managed to do it. I don't know whether it's by design. I don't know whether it's just the nature of the game and the nature of the people playing the game. Because everything got so heavily politicized. I don't know whether the top brass of professional baseball got everybody together in a room and said, hey, no politics. There was one person that kneeled, but nobody really made anything of it. I think it was like one of the Oakland A's a couple of years ago. It was when the whole Kaepernick kneeling on the field thing was really getting some legs, and somebody kneeled in baseball, but I don't think anybody minded or cared, and it really didn't catch on. And baseball, as someone whose job it is to come in here and talk about the events of the day every single day, talk about news and politics and the world in which we find ourselves, well, baseball has been sweet relief from all of that. I know so many people that said, oh man, I sort of lost track of baseball over the years. I liked it a lot when I was a kid, and sort of lost me somewhere along the way, but now I'm back into it again. Do you feel like you've had that conversation with a lot of people? I mean, maybe you are one of those people. And, you know, there's a lot of folks that would give you a hard time for that, saying, oh, man, you know, you got to be a hardcore fan. You got to be there when they win, there when they lose, there no matter what. And I am for my New York Mets. But, hey, if you haven't enjoyed watching baseball in years, but now all of a sudden you're enjoying watching baseball, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I think part of the reason why a lot of people find themselves migrating back to baseball is because they just don't want to deal. They just don't want to deal with the emotional political baggage that goes with football. Like I said, I don't know if the top brass of professional baseball got everybody in a room and said, just so we're clear on this, we're not going down that route. Leave it at home. Save it for your own time, but not on the field. I'm not sure, but it's been a mercy that professional baseball hasn't been distractingly infected with opposing politics the way more or less everything else has that's good and fun and interesting and an amusing distraction and pastime. Baseball's managed to skate. And going into this World Series, I feel especially grateful for it, especially when you hear about stuff like this. Did you see that Carolina Panthers defensive back Eric Reid, a former teammate of Colin Kaepernick, confronted Philadelphia Eagles player Malcolm Jenkins on the field near the Eagles logo before their game the other day. They had an exchange, and the exchange got heated. And the players had to be separated. There's bad blood between the two of them, and, well, it comes down to politics. The bad blood between the two stems from Reid splitting from Jenkins' Players Coalition after the organization sought to have the protests during the national anthem stopped if the NFL made donations to causes the group support. If it sounds complicated and convoluted to you, and if it's already giving you a headache and making you want to steer clear of football, well, that's where you and I are the same. Jenkins Group and the NFL agreed to a deal in which the league would donate about $90 million to organizations supported by the players. But Reid also wasn't happy that Kaepernick was excluded from the meetings on the issue. And after the game, Reid said that Jenkins co-opted the movement that was started by Colin to get his organization funded. Again, if this sounds like a distraction that you have no interest in, that's where you and I are the same. If it sounds complicated and convoluted and like the headache that all things political are in the year 2018, that's because it is. Like I said, Reid said that Jenkins co-opted the movement that was started by Colin Kaepernick to get his organization funded. Said it's cowardly. He said he sold us out. Kaepernick picked a side. Kaepernick tweeted, "Eric Reid, enough said." Jenkins and a whole bunch of other NFL players helped create the Players Coalition last season to help support social justice causes. In other words, to help some folks get paid. But it's that division. You see it in politics, and anytime politics gets into something else, you see it in that. The way the right is fractured to the far right and the right, how the far right types say, I would never support any kind of establishment Republicans, you rhinos, you Republicans in names only. And then the left has the divide between the Democratic Socialist movement, spearheaded by Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. How people feel like Clinton stymied and shenoogled and cost them the presidency. Had Bernie secured the nomination, had she not been so shady about it, it would have been Bernie all the way, and we'd be looking at a very different America, and they're all butthurt about that. That level of division that affects politics, not only right down the middle between left and right, but in warring factions within the left and right, infected football. Thankfully, like I said, it's left baseball alone. But it's that division. Anytime anything gets political, somehow, no matter how well-intentioned it starts off, somehow it becomes very, very difficult to enjoy.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So if you are like a lot of people I know, you kind of tend to think of the end of the era of civility in politics being, what's that one sort of tent pole of humanity that people tend to point to when they say, oh, why couldn't it be more like that? I think that last bastion of, I don't agree with this person, but they're a person too. They count as a person. The opponent doesn't have to be completely reviled and made out to be a criminal, probably came between Obama and McCain. When that woman said, I don't trust Obama, he's a Muslim, he's from Kenya or something of that nature. And McCain went, no, he's a good man, he's an American man. He and I just have some fundamental disagreements about the best things for the country. People look at that, and I paraphrase, of course, but we all know what I'm talking about. I paraphrase. But I think people look at that as the last bastion of civility in our political process. The nastier it gets, the more people look at that and go, oh, couldn't it be like that? Come on, man. If McCain and Obama were able to make nice in that way, why can't these folks now? And you know, it's a valid point. Wouldn't it be refreshing? Wouldn't it be refreshing if that era hadn't come to a close? I mean, now it's just amazing what people will do to win at all costs. You see people attacking other people, forming these allegiances that last for about a second and a half because it's politically convenient to them. A perfect example would be the Pope. Now, for the longest time, the right would cheerfully align themselves with anything that supported the Judeo-Christian infrastructure. However, the Pope, a little bit liberal, says some things about being nice to Earth that doesn't necessarily jive well with people that would say that the idea of climate change is a liberal plot to take away your freedom. And so, in a weird twist of fate, in a very bizarre twist of fate, the right has sort of become an enemy of the Pope in some situations. Yeah, well, this Pope, we like the Judeo-Christian thing. We're anti-Muslim, and we believe that this should be a Christian nation and Christian, this, but not with that guy. It's a weird one. And like I said, I'm here for the show. I'm not taking sides on this one, but I just find it an incredible reversal of allegiances to see the right go after the Pope, of all things. Or the right being all chill with Vladimir Putin. This is like the butcher of Chechnya. This guy's not a nice guy. But there's many on the right who would rather see Donald Trump hanging out with Putin than Hillary Clinton. It's just weird. It's strange. It's bizarre. I'm not going after one political faction or another, but it's so strange how people can be so elastic with their morals and their principles. Donald Trump was campaigning hard for Ted Cruz in Texas. Not so long ago, Ted Cruz was iffy on the idea of supporting Donald Trump should he secure the nomination. Do you remember that? I mean, it was a real thing, and it was a matter of principle. Donald Trump was calling him Lying Ted. And now, for all intents and purposes, they seem pretty hunky and or dory. It's a weird one. But I think people look at that Obama-McCain exchange and go, there went our humanity. There went civility in our political process. There went the idea that we could be friends with someone even if they voted differently than us. And since then, we've just been at each other's freaking throats, which I suppose is why this was so incredibly refreshing. Here, I'm going to play you a piece of music, and then I'm going to tell you what it is.
But if less is more, how you keeping score means for every point you make, your level drops. Like starting from the top. Society, have mercy on me. Hope you're not angry. I disagree. indeed. Hope you're not lonely without me.
So if you're any kind of a Pearl Jam or Eddie Vedder fan, you might recognize that as the Eddie Vedder song Society from the movie Into the Wild. But let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about what it is you just heard. It's a reminder that we can disagree about stuff without being so freaking nasty all the time. That was Lucy Rogers and Zach Mayo. Who are they? Well, unless you're from Vermont, there's a very good chance you don't know them. Lucy Rogers and Zach Mayo, they're running against each other for a seat in the Vermont House of Representatives. She's a Democrat. He is a Republican. But even though they disagree on an awful lot of stuff, pretty much all things, politically speaking, they've done the unthinkable. They've kept that Obama-McCain legacy alive by being nice to each other. They've kept things civil. They haven't attacked each other personally. She hasn't called his followers a basket of deplorables. He hasn't called her a nasty woman. Maybe it helps that they have something in common, because as it turns out, they're both musicians. Yet Lucy is a cellist. Zach plays the guitar. And, well, they recently ended a debate at their local library by performing a duet. And here's what's actually kind of interesting. This is kind of cool. It's different. I like it. It's a very bold statement, especially in this day and age where the money is in the division. It's like we were saying with the Colin Kaepernick situation. Nike got into that not out of principle, but out of not wanting to stand on the sidelines. They wanted to get in. They wanted to be part of the fray. Why? Because after millions of dollars of market research, they determined, like a lot of people have determined, that whole thing where you try and stay out of it and be neutral, that can be damaging to your business. It is now more dangerous. It is now entirely more daring and bold and iconoclastic to not take a side. The rallying cry used to be, taking a side would be bad for business. We don't get into politics. But now, taking a side, giving people that don't believe in your side's take on whatever the hell the situation is a hard time, that's where the money is. Nike made the decision to get behind Colin Kaepernick and get into business with Colin Kaepernick because they felt like they were going to lose money if they did not pick a side on this one. So they did. And there's a lot of people that would love to tell you that Nike did this out of the goodness of their hearts and out of a desire to do the right thing. But no, they did it out of a desire to exist in the year 2018 in a way that is necessary to exist. So you become much more of an outlier. You become much more of a rebel. You are going significantly more against the grain if you don't pick a side, if you don't believe in derision, if you don't believe in absolutely tearing everything that is not you down at every turn possible. It's a weird twist our society has taken. But, like I said, Lucy, a cellist, Zach plays guitar, and they ended their debate at their local library by performing that duet. They didn't tell anyone they were planning it. They just asked if people could stick around for a few more minutes after the debate was done. They moved some tables, Zach grabbed his guitar and Lucy grabbed her cello, and they did that Eddie Vedder song Society from the movie Into the Wild. Zach joked afterward that he hoped it struck a chord with a few people. Oh, that's a man with the dad jokes after my own heart. Sounds like maybe it did. The two of them got a standing ovation. And you know what? Several people in town decided to put campaign signs for both of them on their lawn. Interesting, right? And they're winning out of it. They're both getting the publicity necessary to line political campaign finance coffers, even though their beliefs are as divergent as this.
We don't need as much government.
I'm pretty centrally focused on healthcare.
They're both all in.
They're out talking to people.
Knocking on a lot of doors.
They both want to win in the worst way.
we asked them if we could have a few minutes at the end to play a duet.
It strikes a chord.
So to speak.
Yeah. To say to the world that this is a better way.
Very sweet and kind, and it just drew you into a different place.
It marked a turning point for us.
It gave me a lot of hope.
It was what we really needed, what we have needed all along.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So, the right motivation can help you move mountains and accomplish a lot. If you've got the right thing driving you, this is what oftentimes is going to get you there. I think there's some motivational speaker types that would tell you the why will get you there. It's not the outcome. It's not the result. It's why you're doing it. Anyways, there is some truth to that. And I bring this up because, did you hear about this shoe shiner who managed to donate a fantastic sum of money to a cause that meant a lot to him? We'll get into the full story after we do the news and after we discuss Ouija boards. Do you buy into anything supernatural? I'm one of life's great skeptics. I love the idea of the supernatural. I love the idea of ghosts. I love the idea of all things X-Files related. I love the idea of people having the ability to move things with their minds. I love the idea of people having powers or ESP or being psychic. I love the idea of all of that, mostly because I think that the grim reality is that none of that's real. None of it's true. None of it works. None of it exists. I am a skeptic. I'm a skeptic who would love to be proven wrong, but as such, there's been nothing that has made me wanting to. There's been nothing that's happened to me in this lifetime that has made me want to check my skepticism at the door. So I never cared about this sort of thing, but I think all of us, when we were kids, went to at least one sleepover where somebody had a Ouija board, right? And, it made no difference to me. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Fine. You're waiting for some spirit to move the marker around on the Ouija board. Go ahead and do it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. There is no such thing. But I did have that one friend who was like, guys, we can't do this. Guys, no, we're messing with something we don't understand. My mom wouldn't like me doing this. This is devil stuff. The devil's real, and this is devil stuff, and we shouldn't be doing this. So I'm like, trust me, we're all going to be fine. Nothing will happen, and we're all going to be fine. Let's just let our other friend over here indulge themselves and ask the Ouija board a question about whether or not he's going to be able to get to first base with this girl that he's crushing on because we're all in the 6th grade or whatever the hell it was. But I was reminded of my friend's childhood fear of the Ouija board when I heard this incredible bit by Flip Schultz.
The last girl I dated, this is true, it was about 3 years ago Halloween. We were at my apartment, and somebody had given me a Ouija board. It's like a gag gift. So I'm like, baby, it's Halloween, I got a Ouija board. Why don't we light some candles? We can ask it questions. And she freaked out. She was almost crying. She's like, oh my God, those are evil. Get those away. I started laughing, and I wasn't trying to make fun of her. I just told her I don't believe Ouija boards are evil for 2 reasons. Number one, there are so many Ouija boards in the world, not every one of them could be evil. And number 2, they're made by Parker Brothers. Call me crazy, but I find it hard to believe the company that invented Hungry Hungry Hippos have the powers of darkness at their fingertips. Seriously. But then again, what if, right? What if at the Parker Brothers factory there's a witch doctor just standing over an assembly line of Ouija boards, just standing there going, evil. 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 Hey, Bob. Evil. That's the wrong game. somewhere a bunch of kids are playing Twister. Kids are playing Twister. They're like, okay, guys, okay. Okay, left foot in the seventh circle of hell.
Oh, and I got to play you one more thing before you and I get into the news. A buddy of mine, maybe you know him. Maybe you know him if you listen in Houston on 950 AM KPRC. Buddy of mine, Ruben Dominguez over at Fox. Great guy. Unbelievably smart, unbelievably talented musician, great news guy, great media personality, great all the things that you want from your local news individual. He, I think, grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens. He's a really good buddy of mine. He grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens for a little bit before he moved to Houston, Texas, but his parents are originally from Cuba. And I was like, any desire to go back? And he was like, my mom will go back to Cuba when she can spit on Castro's grave. And this was before Castro died. So I don't know if she went back and spat on Castro's grave. But I was reminded of this conversation I had with my buddy Ruben about his parents' native country, Cuba. When I heard what Chris Garcia had to say about Cuba becoming like the ultimate tourist destination in a weird twist of fate in the year 2018.
My family's from Cuba. Very proud of my heritage. Sometimes I get a little annoyed the way people talk about it. Have you been to Cuba? Oh my God, have you been? Oh my God, you have to go. You have to go to Cuba. You must. I implore you. You have to go before it changes. Before it changes, por favor, go. Por favor, go to la isla of Cuba, please. You have to go drive around in an old classic car, smoke a cigar. It's the perfect level of poverty for Instagram right now. The people, they're so poor. But they're so happy. Ugh, it kills me. Every time I hear someone talking like that, I want to respond with like, oh my God, if they're so happy, why do they escape? Why do they risk their lives and swim 90 miles through treacherous waters just to get to Florida? A state so sad it's shaped like half a frown.
All right, let's get into the events of today in our segment, My Witness News. I don't know if this really qualifies as news, but it's kind of fascinating stuff. When you leave the house and get that sinking feeling that you forgot something, what is it? You ever leave that house, you've got that feeling that you left something on, like the oven or your curling iron or an electric kettle, although I guess an electric kettle would stop boiling, so that would be okay in the end. New survey found that 80% of us have turned around and gone back to double check. Oh my gosh. I am, I'll tell you something that maybe you and I haven't discussed in the past. I am completely obsessive compulsive. And one of the characteristics that my obsessive compulsive behavior takes on is I check everything. Everything that there is to check, I check. And it can be an exercise leaving the house a lot of the time. It used to take me like an extra half hour. And then more often than not, I would go back. I would turn around on the freeway on the way to work, hang a U-ey, go back to make sure that I'd actually locked the door, closed the garage, whatever the hell it is. And I found a workaround for the situation, which a lot of people will tell me does nothing, and I would say it saves me about a half an hour. And that thing is, I videotape myself. Well, not videotape. I record myself with my phone doing things like making sure that the oven is off, making sure that the front door is locked, making sure that the garage door is down. But yeah, according to this new survey, my mind can be a bit of a tortured place sometimes. Just there. Now we know each other a little better. According to this new survey, the top 10 nagging questions that can constantly stress us out about what we did or did not do when we left the house are, did I leave the stove on? Did I shut the front door? Did I lock the car? Did I leave a light on? Did I leave a window open? Do we have anything to make for dinner? Do I have my keys? Do I have my phone? And finally, did I lock the front door is the main one. There you go. Hey, before we go, I wanted to share this with you. Like I said, it's a real lesson in the fact that the why will get you there. A guy named Albert Lexie shined shoes at the Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh for over 30 years. And sadly, he passed away last week at the age of 76. But he's in the news because he always donated his tips to pay for medical care for underprivileged kids. And in the end, this man, a guy who shined shoes at a children's hospital, gave away over $200,000. The why, my friend, the why will get us there. Have a good night.